Hi, this is Fran with Stampendous. We're continuing our fabulous Friday Fun watercolor series, and this is now lesson 112. And we will start this time by using our Adventure Awaits clear stamp set. And I found a couple of very interesting photos that are going to inspire what we're going to paint first. Here's a very interesting one with a dramatic sky. And then we're going to reference this beautiful photo. This was in Westways. It was the 2019 award-winning photo by Jojo Buttingen. And I just loved the colors with what we're going to do here. So we'll use that as inspiration. So I've taped down my watercolor panel, and then looking at the interesting stars and shooting stars and moon here in the photograph, I used my fine line masking fluid pen. It has a really fine line tip and this wire. And I started at I started at this point, and then I just pulled and lifted to get a really light little streak like that shooting star. And I've done a little crescent moon and a couple other little stars, and that should now have had time to dry. I replaced the wire from the cap to seal the masking pen. And once it's dry, it's more visible actually, as it has a light blue tint to it. So next, let's do some stamping of something here in the foreground. I'm going to do all my stamping with the VersaFine Black. And then I'm going to stamp what I need to make this painting on this side. I wanted you to see how I create this river. There's two little stamps. I've got one on the block this way, the other one on the block turned the other direction. If it's easier than stamping another little bit, I can take a sharp, this is an 05 permanent black, and I can just do a little wiggly line. I continue to be amazed that the 6 colors in this Essentials watercolor kit are all that I'm using to create the entire range of colors that I've been using in this series. And I can get all of my deep colors, and I'm mixing all the colors from those 6. And it really gives me a wonderful array of colors. I'm going to spritz my palette just to revive my colors and not spritz my paper just yet. And I'm going to start with these really dark washes up here at the top. So I need some really dark blue purples, and I have my quinacridone rose in this pocket, and then the rose is also in each of these pockets plus each of the blues. So we're going to get a lot more of the blue and less of the rose to mix a really, really dark purple. I have more of the marine blue over here. And I might just make sure I've got a really dark, and I can lighten it as I go. I'm also going to get some of these other colors ready. And in case I need to move quickly, I think I will prepare a puddle here of rose. And I had just replenished the rose from the tube, so it it came on my brush very quickly. And then this is the scarlet, and we'll get a puddle of that ready. And even make sure we've got some of the gamboge here as well. Okay, and now for my purpley, darkest purple. Oh, look at that rich color. And then I'll move to a little bit more rose. Okay, so while that side is drying, let's work on our scene over here. And for this, we're going to reference this whole array of beautiful colors here. So I want to start with a bit of a blue-gray sky. So I'm going to reach, I know this is out of view here, but I'm going to my gray-black area that we used often before. And I'm bringing some of that color down here where we can see it a little bit better. And testing that. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of some gray to our sky up here. And then add a little bit more of our of a light blue. This is just a good opportunity to see if we can kind of match a color that we see. Okay. And actually a bit more of that blue-gray in the sky is going to allow me to leave this mountain back here much lighter. Just get that wet and join it together a little bit more. So now I have a very dusky blue here in the mountains, but very light. And I'm just going to use very small little brush strokes to simulate what might have been some little patches of snow back here on this hillside. I'll lighten this even further because that's way off in the distance. Okay, and then I have some beautiful blue-green colors in here. So let's do some blues and bring some green over. Oh, that gives me a nice and then I'll go to more blues in with it. Might even be a little line of trees down here in that valley. The more shades of color you work into it, the better, I think. Okay, and then more of a medium green. And again, these greens are coming from yellow in each pocket. This one has yellow with the phthalo blue, which gives me the more Kelly pine color greens. And the yellow with the marine blue gives me more of the olivey color greens. And we just want a whole variety here. So and our colors will get a little bit bolder as we come forward, although the bright yellow greens in here must be the sun coming through the clouds a little bit, that we get those prettier, almost lime color highlights. So my essential set of 6 has no greens in it. These are all mixes, but I think that's the fun of being able to get such an interesting variety. And we'll deepen some of this color. So if I want some more of the olive green, I'm using the yellow with the marine in this pocket. A little bit more water. If I want the illusion of some more little trees back in behind, I'll get a dark green on my brush, and then I'm turning my brush for some more vertical strokes. Look at this. And it's just as easy as that to create the illusion of more trees. Add a little bit back in here. And again, these are now further away, so some smaller little brush strokes will do nicely. I wanted to show you a couple of little vignettes that I did earlier, and you can see how the little stamps that created the banks of either the river could also be the lines of a road or a pathway or a hiking trail. And how close or how far apart you stamp them, how you angle them will give you quite a variety of different looks. So we're going to make this be a river in this case, but you can try some other variations as well. I'm going to add just a little bit more of a yellow green in here before it completely dries. Okay. And then we could have either more of the brown ground colors or more of the greens. Um, let's do some more of the light greens here. Landscapes are actually very forgiving. You can do a lot of irregular kinds of things and it still works. Oh, that's nice. It gives us a lush valley. I got this panel so wet that I'm seeing a lot more reds than the purples. You might have brought that deep color further down, and it's still wet in parts up there. But let's paint in our mountain here. And for that, I want pretty much of a black color here. So sorry, I'm a little bit out of reach, but again, I'm using my 3 cool primaries. And even though the paint had dried previously, I can come back with a damp brush and pick up a real dark shade here. And I'm simply going to paint this in now as though it's silhouetted against the brightness of the sky. And now for our river. We're going to primarily paint with our phthalo blue. I'm going to do sort of horizontal strokes here. And if I leave some white, that will give me the illusion of some highlights here. Now with a drier brush, but with more of the blue. While that one's drying, I'll show you another variation. This I got a little bit more of the browns or the fall kinds of colors into the mix, and you can see that any variation of this is going to give you a very fun scenic look here. I'm going to paint a little bit more here and there. With the darker olive green, I'm going to add some more horizontal brush strokes back in here. On this one, it got so wet that it bowed a little bit, and that caused me to keep adding more water to get the blend that I wanted. So now that it's almost dry, I'm going to add another wash, and we can decide if we like it better this way or with what I'm going to add. Okay, you can keep playing with it until you take the tape off, then you're done. We're going to let this dry. Next, we're going to do some more painting with our hummingbird and our roses. For these next paintings, I want to show you how you can stamp on sticky notes and cut out the pieces, and you can cut several at a time. And I've done all of this ahead, and we're going to fast forward some stamping, but you'll get to see the sequence of how it goes to stamp over some of the masks to create a more complex combination of images. This one we just simply stamped the two on top of each other, but in other cases you need to cover up the stems perhaps. So let's see how that goes, and it'll look like I'm very fast at it. What you want as your foreground should be stamped first. On this one I cut away the detail flowers. This printout is a photo that I took, and strangely enough, this rose color was actually grafted onto the rose bush that had these soft colors to it. So I may use that as inspiration and add a bit more color to this one. But you can see where the dark colors behind are what give me the option to really make a light color rose really pop. So I'm going to start with my background, and I'm going to create some very dark greens. And I'm going to get quite a puddle of it going. I'm using yellow with the marine blue to also mix a very dark olive green. And because the colors will dry a little bit lighter, I'm also going to reach up here into my gray black, and I'm going to bring a bunch of that color down here so we can see it. Okay, I'm going to start in with my darkest colors right in behind the rose. This is really going to give me that high contrast that I'm looking for. The more varied shades of color in the background you can see are just going to make it all the more interesting. Okay, while that's drying, we'll move over here, and instead of the blues, I'm going to take an even splashier color approach to things here. Okay, we're going to do a very splashy color approach on this one with all of these beautiful bright colors. It's a good exercise just in taking a very free, loose approach to your color and your brush work. Oh, love that vivid color. Look there. Whoops, I'm getting my hand into green. Not good. I'll give you permission to color outside the lines. It's going to give us the illusion of other flowers, maybe even out of focus in the background. Quite a bit of yellow with just a little bit of blue will give us a nice lime color. Let's see, while we're doing greens, some of the leaves you can see were quite yellowed already, and that does make it more natural and more interesting looking. So we'll make sure we get a really nice light green here. Okay, and let's go back to some of our purples here for the hummingbird. Maybe this nice magenta color and a bit of blue. So this one I'm going to add just a little bit of some blue clouds here in the background, but I'm just going to work around. These flowers are often deeper color in the center, so we'll add. Okay, and now for our pale, pale roses. With that dark background, it's not going to take much color at all for these roses. So we'll start with a very light yellow wash, and to warm it up a little bit, we'll just, oh, there's a nice touch. You can see how even this has got shades of peachy and pale yellow. I'm going to leave quite a bit of white for highlights. I'm going to take liberty and do some of these richer colors on this other one. And for that, we want our rose color with just a hint of the darker purpley color. Oh, lovely. And we missed a little bit of green here. And it's pretty dark down here, but if you wanted to draw in a line to continue that stem, you could do that. This part here is a little bit unclear. I can either paint it in to be another petal, or I could paint it dark green, either way. I think I'll go darker. And now, in the spirit of living dangerously and doing a little bit of the mixed media style, I'm going to splatter some white onto these. Here I did a dark blue, but some white on this one in particular is going to be fun. So we're going to give that a try. And for that reason, I've moved lots of other things out of the way so I have less cleanup. I'm using some white acrylic paint. I've got a lid where I can contain a small quantity of it. I'm adding a bit of water. I do not want to use my watercolor brush and get an acrylic paint in it, but I can use a stylus to mix it up a little bit here. And I've got another inexpensive brush that I'm not worried about. Okay, I need a little bit thinner white to be able to splatter it. I'm going to test it over here. Okay. And I need to do this before I take the tape away. Might as well add it over here to my colorful flowers as well. Where I'm not happy with this big blob, I'm going to lift some of that away. And then I discovered the other day that my little stylus would also give me an option of kind of creating some more carefully placed bits of white. And anything goes except doing them all in a straight row, I think. I hope if you're painting along that you will be very pleased with your variations to these watercolors we've done this week.